This to me tells me that the 49ers are setting up to do exactly what we've talked about in cutting Jimmy and saying it's what's best for him, right? And here's how you parlay this into that whole situation. We gave him the opportunity to seek a trade.
Mm.
We didn't find a trade that made sense for Jimmy Garoppolo and our team. And so we're going to do right by Jimmy Garoppolo. But even though he's been out there and has been willing to negotiate a contract, which we knew months ago, even though we know that they've been able to seek a trade, this is nothing crazy new. This is them hedging their bets. If he doesn't get traded, then we can play that ticket. And it's also them hedging their bets and saying, hey, we will hang on to him up until the very, very last minute by taking it careful with him. And we can use he's still rehabbing. That's why he's not around the team as an excuse. They played this very well both ways. They've given themselves an out on either side to this point. So if Jimmy doesn't show up to training camp, well, I mean, it was reported that he wasn't going to show up to training camp. We're taking it easy. He's rehabbing. And if they cut Jimmy, they've already laid the groundwork for that. Very, very genius work here by John Lynch. I like what he did with this one.
But so the question is, will Jimmy Garoppolo find a trade partner before the season starts? I don't think anyone expects that that's going to happen. No.
Not at this point. I mean, there are more teams involved, potentially involved now than there was a month ago. But even out of those potential involvements, at the end of the day, it doesn't make sense for any team to take on Jimmy Garoppolo and pay that full amount when he's got to get cut. And then he's out there to be had anyways. So why? Like no team's desperate enough for a starting quarterback that is going to compete this year. Mm-hmm. Cleveland was the one team that fit that mold if Watson was unable to play for the whole year. But we're hearing as low as 2 games at this point, which is crazy, but that's what we're hearing. So why?
Here's the thing, though. You think the Niners are going to do the right thing and that they want to cut Jimmy and they're just looking for an excuse and that Jimmy's going to ask for the release, as Steve Young suggested, and that the Niners are going to be like, yes, he asked for the release. First of all, I'm skeptical in a couple of ways. You're telling me Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't want to make $27 million this year? That's the first thing. I mean, I'd like to make $27 million. And if he asks for release, he ain't making anywhere near that on the open market. What's the other thing I wanted to say? My wife just walked up. It's her fault. I'm distracted. No, okay. The other thing. No, this is the main point. If the Niners keep him, they can trade him midseason. And, every week that goes by, he'd be cheaper for the upcoming team. They could do that. And if they don't trade him, because they're never going to trade him, they could get the 3rd-round comp pick for him next year. So would they, out of the kindness of their hearts, cut him and walk away from a 3rd-round comp pick? You know how much they love comp picks. I haven't seen a team as addicted to comp picks as the Niners love comp picks more than anyone else. That's what I keep coming back to. They could be like, oh, you want us to cut you? Well, maybe you should have told us you were going to have this shoulder surgery because we didn't know. And we were like this close to getting a good offer for you, something better than a comp pick. You spring this on us, and now you want us to do the right thing and cut you? No, we'll let you sit here and be embarrassed all year and then take the 3rd-round comp pick and blame it on you. I feel like that's on the table, man. But maybe I'm wrong. I'm cynical like that.
You and I'm a fan. So this is why this show is great, because we're on complete opposite ends of the spectrum when the way that we view this team in a lot of areas. This is one of them. Sure, they can get a 3rd-round comp pick, but they're doing 2 things. First of all, they're saying a 3rd-round comp pick, which is essentially a 4th-round pick. 3rd-round comp pick is worth more than $25 extra million next year. That's one thing they're telling you. And 2, that Jed York is willing to pay that this season to get a 3rd-round comp pick. What I like about what they're doing is that they know that Jimmy can't be traded, right? And so by laying this groundwork the way that they have right here, we keep talking about, well, if you keep Jimmy, and you just said it, maybe another team gets desperate. Maybe another team has their quarterback go down, and then they need Jimmy Garoppolo. Mm-hmm. But what if that team that has their quarterback go down is the 49ers, and they got rid of Jimmy Garoppolo? Versus if you hold him until the very bitter last second, you make sure that Trey Lance comes out of this thing healthy. Mm-hmm. You don't need Jimmy Garoppolo. And then you let him walk. You don't pay him. You save that extra $25 million to roll over to next year to double up. Jed York doesn't have to pay that money. You have money that's freed up in case you start 6-1, 5-2, and you feel great about this thing to where you can go make a bold move and bring in a player that can help you win a championship. And Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to play as a starter this year. It's too late. Like, you win all the way around. To me, if the 49ers pass up that opportunity, that would be crazy. That would be crazy.
Flav says Trey and Jesse have led the same amount of game-winning drives since high school. Thinking Trey will just be able to do this consistently is delusional. Guy has zero experience, leading drive with game on the line. Yeah, I mean, will he be able to like consistently win games at the end? Like, no one does, but neither does Jimmy. Like, Jimmy lost at the end in Seattle. He lost to Seattle twice last year. He almost threw a pick in Cincinnati. He had to get a second chance in overtime to win that game. I mean, he blew it in the Super Bowl. He blew it in the NFC Championship game. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying Trey Lance is going to be a Pro Bowler or a Hall of Famer, but it's time to let him see what he can do, because the only person standing in his way is like the 27th best quarterback in the league. Jimmy, go be a backup somewhere else. And I don't know if the Niners were right to trade up for Trey Lance. I don't know if he was worth 3 first-round picks, but I know he's better than Jimmy Garoppolo, because Jimmy's going to be a backup quarterback this year. James Richard.
I got a few things to say about this. One, okay, it's fair. I don't know for sure. It's impossible, but you also don't know for sure that he can't lead game-winning drives. Just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it can't be done. That's one. Two, Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't lead game-winning drives. Every time he does, let's go through the games real quick. Packers, he needed a second chance. Why? Because he threw a backwards pass, gave the Packers the ball. If the Packers get a touchdown there, which they should have, game's over anyways. He doesn't get the second chance. Then he goes and scores, and then the narrative changes to, well, the defense couldn't hold. Jimmy did his job. He got a second chance there.
Yeah, defense held before. Yeah, after his backwards pass.
Cincinnati, second chance. Jesse Bates should have pick six that. Not only that, if Jimmy Garoppolo hits an out pattern, the drive before that drive, a wide open Debo who he was looking at and passed up for an underneath route on a third down, if he hits that pass, game's over anyways. So really, he needed 3 chances there. Then we go to the Rams in week 18. They got stifled when they needed the game-winning drive. 3 and out. We thought the game was over. They get a second chance. Then Jimmy goes and leads a game-tying drive. We go into overtime. The rest is history. Jimmy's not leading game-winning drives on his first time around. He's the king of second chances, the king of circumstances, and people lead it up. So I'm just not buying any of this, man. I mean,
he's like Tony Romo or Drew Brees or something. Like, the guy is a liability, and that's why no one wants him to be their starting quarterback this year. He's going to be a backup. And the thing is, like, Trey's an unknown. I'll take an unknown with talent over Jimmy Garoppolo, who is a known. You know he's not good enough. That's why he's a backup now, because you know he's not good enough, and he's 30. So, I mean, he's going to have to get a second chance after sitting out for a while and really impress people, because his day is over. There's always going to be someone younger, someone more tantalizing, who's going to get a shot over Jimmy, because you know what he is, and it's not good enough. So, look, that's all it is. You can't trade up to number 3 and sit the dude on the bench for 2 years because you have Jimmy G on your team. If you had Tom Brady, maybe, or Aaron Rodgers, that's the only way you could justify doing that. You can't justify it with Jimmy freaking G. Sorry, Flay, but you can keep arguing with me.
If Trey Lance is as good as what we think he can be, there's a possibility they don't need many game-winning drives because they're just winning the game.
That's true.
Right? Like, you don't need game-winning drives if you're just winning games. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it's not like the defense is going to keep him in the game. You know who kept the other team in the game the last couple of years? Jimmy. He kept the other team in the game. The Niners defense was playing elite football. The running game was playing elite football, but the quarterback over here being like, "Come on, let's not hurt the other team's feelings." You know what I mean? We have to be out here 3 hours with these guys. Look at their faces. They're demoralized. Let me pep them up a little. That's Jimmy. He keeps both teams in the game. It's quite big of him.
He's been more of a 12th man for Seattle than any of those fans ever have been. Let's be clear about that.
The one real Zangetsu donates $1. Thank you. Damian Jasso says, Grant, love the show. What's so special about Jimmy's command in the huddle? Laugh my ass off. I think he's got I think he's got a lot of bass in his voice when he says it, whatever he says. And I think his eyes twinkle. There's a twinkle in his eye.
When he says whatever he says.
Well, I don't know what he said. He repeats the play. Damian Chasso, thank you. C. Turley says, can you realistically see Jimmy getting traded to Seattle? No, I can't. That's an arch enemy. Guaranteed 2-0 record, though. I think, well, hold on. We'll talk about, I'm not going to dismiss the idea of a trade. We're going to come back to that in a minute. Double B Studio says, what date does Jimmy need to be off the roster?
The day before game 1.
Dude, who says he's going to be off the roster? I'm telling you, they got a 3rd round comp pick waiting. That's Danny Gray. That's Ambry Thomas. Love them.
If they want to save that money, they got to do it the day before game 1. That's really what it comes down to.